Neytiri is more than just a warrior. She's a daughter, a leader, a mother, and now, following the end of the Way of Water, a survivor of unimaginable loss. From the great rainforests of Home Tree to the distant ocean clans, her story is woven through every major event on Pandora. This is the complete story of the Na'vi princess who became the heart of her people's resistance. Let's start at the beginning. Origin and early life. Neytiri Tiskaha Moatite was born in 2136 in the Valley of Moara on Pandora. She is the second daughter of Adakin, the Oloektan, leader of the Omaticaya clan, and Moat, the clan's Sahik, spiritual leader. Neytiri's elder sister was Silwanen. The Omaticaya, also called the People of the Blue Flute, lived at Home Tree Aranahe, a giant living tree in the central rainforests of Pandora. They maintain a deep spiritual connection to Ewa, the guiding force of life on Pandora, through sacred places like the Tree of Souls. Neytiri grew up in the traditional Na'vi way, learning song, ceremony, hunting, and survival skills from a young age. She was part of the first Omaticaya generation born after the arrival of the Sky People, human colonists working under the Resources Development Administration, RDA. As a child, she was taught basic English by her mother Moet and by Dr. Grace Augustine, who established a school at Home Tree to teach young Na'vi about human customs and language. According to Avatar, Adapt or Die, in 2142, at age 6, Neytiri visited the human base Hell's Gate with other Omaticaya children accompanied by Grace Augustine. During this period, Neytiri fell ill due to chemical contamination of the Omaticaya's river caused by RDA activities. Neytiri was cured through traditional Na'vi healing methods involving the Siakalin flower, guided by Moat and Grace. Following this incident, the Omaticaya elders closed Grace's school and banned Sky People from their territory. Neytiri's early life was shaped by this dual exposure to Na'vi tradition and limited interaction with humans. After the school's closure, she focused entirely on mastering Na'vi skills. Under her father's guidance, she trained as a hunter and later completed the Iknamaya rite of passage, successfully bonding with a mountain banshee, Ikran, whom she named Sezi. This marked her full initiation as a Na'vi hunter. In 2152, tragedy struck Neytiri's family and the Omaticaya clan. These events are laid out in the first film, comic books Avatar, Adapt or Die, and Sute's Path. Neytiri's older sister Silwanen was killed during a brutal Sekops raid on the Omaticaya schoolhouse, which had been reopened under Dr. Grace Augustine's guidance. Silwanen, along with several other young hunters, led a protest against the RDA's destruction of sacred forest areas. After setting fire to a bulldozer used by the RDA to desecrate Na'vi land, Silwanen and her companions sought refuge at the schoolhouse. Instead of dialogue, RDA security forces responded with lethal force, storming the site and executing those inside. Neytiri, still a young girl at the time, witnessed the fallout of this violence firsthand. With Silwanen gone, Neytiri was abruptly pushed into the role of Sahik in training, the spiritual successor to her mother Moat. Na'vi custom also dictated that she was now betrothed to Sute, the clan's foremost warrior, who had originally been promised to Silwanen. This period marked a sudden end to Neytiri's childhood. By her early teenage years, she carried the heavy responsibility of future clan leadership, expected to guide spiritual rituals, uphold Ewa's teachings, and eventually lead her people in times of both peace and war. Meeting Jake Sully and the War of 2154. In 2154, Neytiri encountered Jake Sully, a human operating an avatar body in the forests of the Valley of Moara. Neytiri tracked Jake after observing unfamiliar tracks near Home Tree. She intervened to save Jake's life when he was attacked by a pack of viper wolves. Neytiri was initially prepared and on the verge of killing Jake, but the sudden arrival of a wood sprite, an Atokirina, a spiritual seed of Ewa, landing on her arrow caused her to lower her weapon and spare him. Neytiri brought Jake to the Omaticaya leadership at Home Tree Aranahi. Her mother, Moat, instructed Neytiri to teach Jake the ways of the Na'vi. Neytiri trained Jake in Na'vi customs, hunting practices, riding the dire horse, known as Pali, and ultimately preparing him for the Iknamaya rite of passage. Neytiri observed Jake successfully bond with a banshee, Ikran, marking his acceptance among the Na'vi. During this period, Neytiri and Jake developed a personal relationship, culminating in their mating before Ewa at the Tree of Voices in 2154. Taking a mate in the eyes of Ewa is the Na'vi marriage ceremony. Jake and Neytiri's relationship coincided with increasing conflict between the Omaticaya and the RDA. Neytiri remained loyal to her people during the initial confrontation, but chose to stand with Jake after the destruction of Home Tree. Neytiri participated in the Battle of the Hallelujah Mountains. She fought alongside Jake, who assumed the role of Turuk Makto after bonding with the great Leonopteryx, known as Turuk. In battle, she led Omaticaya archers in coordinated aerial attacks while riding her Ikran, Seze, targeting RDA aircraft and providing cover for the ground forces. Neytiri played a critical role in rallying the Na'vi during key moments of the battle, helping to organize the counter-assault when the odds turned against them. Crucially, Neytiri killed Colonel Miles Quaritch during the battle, protecting Jake and contributing spectacularly to the defeat of the RDA forces. Following the battle, the Omaticaya reclaimed their territory, and the surviving humans were expelled from Pandora. Family life and the Second War. As shown in Frontiers of Pandora, after the War of 2154, Neytiri and Jake settled at a new home tree. By this point, Jake had had his consciousness permanently transferred into his avatar body. Together, Jake and Neytiri became the central leaders of the Omaticaya clan during a period of relative peace. Neytiri and Jake raised a family, having 3 biological children, Netiam, Loak, and Tuktiri, known as Tuk, and adopting Kiri, a child born from the avatar body of Grace Augustine. They also acted as guardians to Spider Socorro, the human son of Colonel Quaritch, who remained close to their family, despite Neytiri's lingering distrust of humans. For over a decade, Neytiri's life was centered on raising her children and preserving the cultural and spiritual traditions of the Omaticaya. She passed down her knowledge of Na'vi customs, hunting, and spiritual practices, while also helping her children navigate the evolving dangers presented by the human presence on Pandora. In 2168, the RDA returned to Pandora, establishing Bridgehead City and deploying new military units known as recombinants, avatar bodies embedded with the memories and combat skills of deceased human soldiers. Among them was a recombinant version of Colonel Miles Quaritch, resurrected as a Na'vi warrior with human memories and motivations. As tensions escalated, Neytiri and Jake led guerrilla attacks against RDA supply lines, but were eventually forced into exile when their children were directly threatened by Quaritch's forces. Choosing the safety of their family, they left the forests of the Valley of Moara and journeyed to the distant coastal territories of the Metkayina clan, settling in the reef village of Awa'atlu under the leadership of Tonawari and Ronal. Neytiri initially struggled to adapt to the Metkayina's ocean-based lifestyle, facing cultural differences and personal grief over leaving her ancestral home. Nevertheless, she trained alongside her children to master the aquatic skills of the Metkayina, including freediving, riding the ilu, and understanding the ways of the tulkun, the ocean's largest creatures. In 2170, the RDA located the Sully family's refuge in Awa'atlu, the village of the Metkayina Reef clan, and launched a full-scale assault. The attack culminated in a massive confrontation centered around the Sea Dragon, a heavily armed RDA mothership and whaling vessel used to hunt tulkun and transport military forces. The battle was the largest seen since the First War, involving multiple RDA support vessels, small submersibles, AMP suits, recon soldiers, and dozens of Scorpion gunships. Neytiri fought directly alongside Jake, her children, and Metkayina warriors, leading both aerial and underwater strikes. Riding her Ikran, she launched high-speed ambushes on gunships, providing aerial cover while the Metkayina attacked from the sea. Neytiri was central to the Sully family's survival. She personally helped rescue her children from captivity, defended the tulkun, and, in the climax of the battle, Neytiri led a final assault inside the Sea Dragon, exacting revenge on the RDA soldiers responsible for the devastating death of her eldest son, Neteyam. After the battle, Neytiri mourned Neteyam's death at the Cove of Ancestors, where his body was returned to Awa. Neytiri and Jake chose to remain with the Metkayina, vowing to protect their surviving children and continue resisting the RDA's expansion efforts across Pandora. Neytiri's legacy and role in the future. By 2170, Neytiri had transitioned from a warrior and hunter to a protector of her family and a symbol of survival for the Omaticaya and Metkayina clans. She represents the link between Na'vi tradition and evolving interclan alliances, bridging the gap between the forest and reef peoples. Her actions across the first and second films established her as both a defender of Pandora's natural world and a fierce mother willing to make difficult decisions to protect her children and culture. Neytiri remains a key figure in Na'vi resistance to human colonization, deeply committed to Awa's balance and her people's sovereignty. Her leadership continues to influence younger generations, and her role is expected to expand further in the years following the Second War. Neytiri in Avatar: Fire and Ash. In Avatar: Fire and Ash, Neytiri's story will enter a new phase. Following the heavy losses in the Battle of 2170, particularly the death of her eldest son Neteyam, Neytiri will grapple with grief and internal conflict. Neytiri will be portrayed questioning the long-standing faith she has placed in Iwa and the traditional Na'vi way of life. Neytiri will be forced to confront her personal anger and loss, leading to a storyline where she reassesses her purpose within the ongoing struggle against the RDA. The story is expected to explore Neytiri's evolving relationship with Jake, her surviving children, and the wider Na'vi community as her identity as a protector is tested. Neytiri's presence in Fire and Ash will represent a major shift, from a purely outward battle for Pandora to an inward journey examining personal loss, cultural preservation, and the possibility of a different future for the Na'vi. This next chapter is set to explore themes of grief, leadership, and transformation, positioning Neytiri at the center of both the physical and emotional stakes of Pandora's evolving story. Neytiri's life mirrors Pandora's turbulent history. From her early training as a hunter to her leadership in times of war, her journey reflects loyalty, resilience, and sacrifice. She helped unite the Omaticaya and Metcalyana clans, balancing tradition with adaptation, and played a key role in defending their survival and way of life. As battles continue and new threats emerge, Neytiri remains a central figure, shaping her people's future, protecting her family, and standing at the heart of Pandora's struggle for freedom. Her choices will continue to influence the destiny of Pandora for generations to come.